In this guide, we're going to show you how you can add videos into your eBay listings via Magento and M2E Pro.
That's right, Dave. So what we're going to do, we've just been and jumped straight across to our browser window and we've got a live eBay item. And you'll see in here is that not only have we got the normal gallery, which you get with M2E Pro, and plus our little Lightbox edition from the eBay listing template builder, but we've also got a YouTube video in our listing as well. And that's what we're going to show you how to do in this guide, is that we'll show you how you can get a YouTube or a Vimeo video into your eBay listings using attributes in Magento.
So in this guide, we are going to take a look at how we can add video into our listing templates using Magento and M2E Pro. An example of a video of a live listing, which we just saw a moment ago. We are then going to cover the benefits of using video on a listing and perhaps why you should include videos on your eBay listings.
Then we're going to show you how to do this with Magento and M2E Pro.
And the secret there is by creating attributes, and that allows us to do this for both YouTube or Vimeo.
And Dave's been and put a little nerd alert in here because we do need some HTML code, but don't worry, it's straightforward because it's going to be copy and paste for you.
Because we have a Matt who's done it already.
Yay!
Then we're going to show you how we can update the listing template in M2E Pro. And finally, we're going to revise the listing and go and take a look at it on the eBay site.
Ace. Before we start, we need to show you where you can find the IDs to be able to do this. And it does vary between YouTube and Vimeo. So on YouTube, what we're looking for is the code, the letters and numbers which come after V equals on YouTube. So we'll show you some live examples in a moment. And also when it comes to Vimeo, we're looking for a number. So it will be vimeo.com/ and then a number. And that's what we mean by IDs. And this is what we're going to be adding to our Magento system so that you can then add video into your actual eBay listings. So I've been and jumped across to my browser window. And let's go and have a look on YouTube. So we're using a Outwell tent as this example. And up here in our browser window, we can see in the address bar, it says youtube.com, watch, then a question mark, and then you've got V equals. And that's the video ID. And it will always be this little combination of letters and numbers. And if I just go and grab a different video, for example, so I've just opened that one up in a different tab. Just pause that a moment and you'll see that the ID has been changed as well, but that's the ID which you need to be able to do this. And then when it comes to Vimeo, is that you'll see up here in the address bar we've got vimeo.com and then we've got a set of numbers, and that's the numbers which we're after to do this for Vimeo as well.
So when it comes to video on your listings, there are a number of benefits that having a video brings. And having a look at a couple of the main ones is, firstly, it sets you apart from the competition who don't use video content.
And a big one for me, Dave, is that if it's yourself which has been and made the video. So we're using Outwell as an example here, but if you've been and made your own video content, then it's much, much more personal with the customer because they get to meet you. They can see you, as in the case of Outwell, but they could just, like you are right now, you can hear myself, Matt, and you can also hear Dave, and it's a much more personal experience.
Another spin-off one here, which is a little bit different, is that the customer will end up staying on your listing longer. Obviously, they're going to sit there and watch the video if it is of interest to them. And there are statistics out there, Matt, which suggest that the longer a customer stays on a product listing, the more likely they are to buy.
Oh, absolutely. So let's think about this for a moment, just from a practical point of view, is that if you've got a 5-minute video on your listing, let's put this bluntly, that's 5 minutes which they're not on somebody else's listing. It is just as simple as that. And the other key reason is because that enables your customer to actually see the product. They'll gain an idea of proportion, and it will also allow you to explain any key features or benefits about the product which you're showcasing.
It's an interesting one, like you just said there about proportion, Matt. Sometimes without a point of reference, photos can become quite misleading, and some people just don't really have a head for numbers in terms of dimensions. Whereas if you actually see a video of someone stood next to a product, you tend to get a much better idea for the scale of the product itself.
David's been input on nerd on here, and I've written no nerd required. So you are going to need some extra HTML. You are going to need 2 new attributes in Magento to put these either the Vimeo ID or the YouTube ID into your account. But don't panic. All the code which we show you in this video guide is available for you to download. Now, if you're watching this video on understandinge.com, then the code will be underneath this video guide for you. If you're watching this video guide on YouTube, then underneath this video, the link where it says show see description, there'll be a link there, and it will take you straight to our actual guide page on Understanding E, and you can just copy and paste the code appropriately. So don't worry about going, oh my God, that's a load of code. It's literally, we'll give you the code, and it's just straightforward as copy and paste. So if you can copy and paste, you can do this.
The next quick note we have here is back to setting up attributes for videos. And for people who are on the understandinge.com site and have been through a few of the guides before, you'll know all about how we set up attributes and the naming conventions which we like to use to make it really simple for us to identify them later on.
So what we were going to say is that to create attributes in Magento, we like to prefix our attributes with att underscore and then the attribute name. So when it comes to Vimeo IDs and YouTube IDs, is that as you can see on the screen right now, is that we're going to suggest that you create 2 new attributes, one called att underscore Vimeo ID and another attribute called att underscore YouTube ID. And the reason for the at part at the beginning is that back in Magento, it just stands out a mile. If you've got an attribute and you can see the internal code starts with att, you know instantly that that was an attribute which you made. And of course, the naming on the end will then tell you what that attribute is being used for. Oh, Dave, there is a side effect to this as well, which is that if you're entering video IDs in to go and use on eBay, if you're going to be building a Magento website and you want that video ID, so you want a YouTube video to come out in your description, for example, is that you can actually use that attribute to make these videos come out on your website as well. They will need a little bit of code to do it and a little bit of logic testing, but the potential's there to do it.
Fantastic.
Cool beans. So that's enough of the theory. So what we're going to do, we're going to head across to our Magento system, and feel free to follow us along in your system as well. So we've been jumped across to our Magento system, and we've got a couple of little tasks for us to do. And the first task is that we need to create the attributes in Magento. And the second task which we need to do is that we then need to add those newly created attributes, the attribute for the Vimeo ID and the YouTube ID, into our attribute set so we can actually set them on products. And this is really straightforward. So we've come into our catalog in Magento, and along the top we want to go to catalog, attributes, and then manage attributes. And we need to create 2 new attributes. So the first one is going to be for the Vimeo ID. So in the top right hand corner, we're going to click on add new attributes. And where it says attribute code, we're going to paste in, or I'm just pasting in, att underscore Vimeo ID. And again, you would probably want to type that in. We're going to leave all the settings as default in here. But the key one is to make sure it's set to store view. And the other setting here is the catalog input type. Make sure that is set as text field as well. And once you've been and put the settings in, you'll want to give it a label. So on the left hand side where it says manage label and options, is that in the admin field, we're going to pop in Vimeo ID like so. And again, if I could spell, that always helps. Yeah, Definitely, it would help if I could spell on that. So obviously you would type that in properly, like so, and pop that into the admin field over there on the left-hand side. And then we're going to press save and continue. Or ideally, you would have pressed save attribute. So in this case, we're just going to click back and we'll go back into the list. Also, we want to add in our YouTube attribute as well. So same process, add new attribute in the top right-hand corner. Attribute code, and this is where you would type in att_ YouTube ID into the attribute code. Make sure the scope is set to store view and the input type is set to text field. Then on the left hand side where it says admin, we're going to type in YouTube ID as well, like so. And this time we'll do it correctly, Dave. So we'll go and click on save attribute. Now, if you do get a little warning notice up at the top that your one or more of the indexes are not up to date, just ignore this for now. Now, Dave, now that we've been and added these attributes, we need to go and actually add them into the attribute sets in Magento so we can actually set them on our products. Now, in this example, all we're going to do, we're only going to add it to our default attribute set. However, if you're using multiple attribute sets, then you'll want to basically rinse and repeat the process for the other attribute sets which you've got. And actually, Dave, this is dead simple to do. So if we go to Catalog, Attributes, and then click on the bottom option here where it says Manage Attribute Sets. And you can see in our system, we've got multiple attribute sets. And the one which we're going to do this for is the default attribute set. So we're going to click through onto default. And here on the right hand side, we can see that we've got these two new attributes. And if this is the first time you've been and met myself and Dave, and you've just come into this idea of naming attributes with ATT in front of them, is that you can actually see that they stand out a mile compared to the system attributes in here, like manufacturer or color, is that because we've got the ATT underscore in front of them, they really do stand out a mile. Then what we're going to do is actually, Dave, let's just go off a tangent here a second. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to open up the products tab and we're going to go into that tent which we've got listed onto eBay. And we'll just scroll down. And what we're going to do, we want them to add those new attributes down at the bottom of our product page down here. Because we're assuming that we're going to have the videos on a couple of our products, but not all of them. And we don't want them to be a distraction from us being able to quickly enter or update products in Magento. So we're going to put them at the bottom so they're still easily accessible from the one page, but they're not distracting from anywhere else. And again, it's just going to help us to save from scrolling on the page. So jumping back to our attribute settings Magento. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to scroll this middle bar down a touch. And where it says ATT underscore Vimeo ID, I'm just going to left click and hold my mouse button down, my left mouse button down, and I'm going to drag and drop, and I'm just going to put it underneath visibility. And I'm going to do the same for the YouTube ID as well. In fact, I'm going to pop that one above, like so. So now it says URL key, visibility, and we've then got those two Magento attributes, like so. And now I'm going to click on Save Attribute Set. Now this will take a few moments to go through, and we don't have that many products in our test system, so that took 4 or 5 seconds. It can take up to a minute depending on the size of your Magento catalog. So don't panic if it stays there for a few moments. That's perfectly normal. Ace. So let's go and have a look at our tent product in Magento. So I've just gone to catalog and then manage products. And now I'm going to click into our tent just here. And if we now scroll down, we'll be able to see that we've got these two new attributes down at the bottom. And for this example, Dave, all we're going to do is the YouTube ID. However, if you were to fill out the video ID for the Vimeo ID, then the code which we've got for you is self-intuitive. It knows which one to use. So if you put a Vimeo ID, then it will show the Vimeo player. Or if you've done the YouTube, then it will use the YouTube video. Or if both those cells are empty, then it won't show any video player at all. And you'll find out about that in a few moments' time.
The chances are, Matt, is that some businesses will probably have a favourite one. They'll probably only use YouTube, or they may only use Vimeo. And if that's the case, then you don't need to add both of them, do you? You could just add the one that the video player that you use. But we're just covering all bases.
Yeah, the YouTube and Vimeo, they're the most popular ones, so that's the ones which we've included the examples for. So we need a YouTube ID. So I'm just going to go to the YouTube tab in my browser, and I'm going to copy that ID out the top, that one there. So I'm just going to right click and copy. And let's go back to Magento now, and that's the wrong tab. I'll go to the correct tab, which was that one there, and I'm just going to paste in the YouTube ID down here. And again, make sure you don't have any spaces at the beginning or the end of it either, and then press save at the top. Right, Dave, that was the hard work done. All we now need to do is to add some extra code into our eBay listing template so that we can then get this to come out on our eBay listings. So what we've got, I'm just going to drag this across onto my screen here, is that, again, don't worry about this code.
Oh my God.
All right, it looks scary, but if you can handle copy and paste, it is as simple as that, okay? So just at the top, I'm just going to explain this a little bit further for you. So at the top here, okay, this is the code which you need to copy and paste wherever you would like your videos to come out in your listing template. Then everything after here is that what you need to paste at the bottom of your listing template. But before we do that, Dave, we need to just quickly add in two attribute codes or two variables into the script so that it will actually work with Magento and M2EPro. So where it says Vimeo ID, we're just going to put in hash symbol, ATT underscore, and then it was Vimeo ID, and then another hash symbol. And we also need to do that for Magento as well. For YouTube as well. So we're going to do hash ATT underscore YouTube ID hash. And those are M2EPro variables. Now, if you called your attribute something else, then you'll need to change the code there. But if you've just followed us along, that's what you need to enter in there. And again, the code which you'll see, the final code underneath this video, is that's what we'll have included for you. Now, when it comes to width and height, then what we've got in there is that we've put variables in there. So if you don't want your video to be 640 pixels wide and then 360 pixels deep, we've changed the little width, and we've basically added these variables in there for more advanced users. If you don't want to change that, you want to just keep to a standard height and width, then just leave those settings alone. Ace. So we've been and got that code sorted. So we need to go and update M2EPro. We need to change the description policy to go and add this new custom code in. So let's move that out of the way, and I'm just going to pop this onto a different screen, and that's where it's just literally this code which I'm going to be copying and pasting from. So back in Magento, we're going to go up to the top. We're going to go to Sell on eBay, and then into Configuration. And Dave, the section which we're after is one of the description policies. So we need to go to the Policies tab. And then if we scroll down now, we've already been set this up as an example, and we've created a separate description which we're using to test with. And that's what we would suggest you to do as well. Create a separate description. Just make sure it works with one of your listings, and then of course once you've got it working and you're happy the way which it looks and feels, then you can then copy that and paste that into your other listing templates or into your other description policies. So we're going to click through onto here, and let's just scroll down a touch, and the section which we're after is the description section here, and we need to click on the link where it says view/edit custom description. Now we are using a template from the Understanding eBay listing template builder, which is a free listing template builder which is compatible with M2EPro and Magento. So if you're using a different template, now the instructions for this are and where you paste this code, it's going to vary from what we've got. So you'll have to use your own intuition of where you should enter this. So the first place we want to do is that we want to put our video container in. So I'm just going to scroll down and get past all the CSS and There we go. So we're looking for our description tag, which we've got there, and it's got 2 hash symbols either side. And I'm going to grab the code from my other screen, and I'm just going to press return a few times. I'm just going to paste that in there. So I've just pasted in the 2 div tags, the one for YouTube and the one for Vimeo. And the rest of the code, which we've got here, is that I'm just going to grab there from where it says put this at the bottom of your listing template. Just going to scroll down and then hold down shift to highlight it, and then I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy that. So let's move that off the screen, and I'm going to scroll to the very bottom of our listing template, and there's the final tag which we've got. I'm going to hit return a few times, and I'm just going to paste that in there as well. Now, if we wanted to preview this to see what it's going to come out like, what we can do is press the preview button like so, and we know what the product ID for the Montana 10 is. It's 168. And again, if you've got a specific product in mind which you're testing with, is that if you go to catalog and then manage products, and you've got this ID column, and it's this number here. So if you wanted to do it for, we'll pick on some light bulbs down here, then that's the number which we would use, 159. But in our case, we want to use 168. So let's just jump back to our policy, get the right tab like so, and we'll click on view. And there we go. We can see that's how our template is going to come out now. And just to make a point, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back into that Montana 10, scroll down to the bottom. I'm going to remove the YouTube ID like so, press save and continue edit. I'm going to go back to the preview screen. I'm going to hit view again. And there we go, Dave. There's no video in there because we didn't have the ID in there.
Hey.
Hooray. And if we wanted to put a Vimeo ID in there, so I'll go back to our product and scroll back down. I'm going to put a Vimeo ID in there this time and press save and continue edit. Go back to our preview and then click on view. And there we go. There is our video from Vimeo. Okay.
Fantastic.
All right, so I'm actually just going to switch those back around and remove the Vimeo ID and the YouTube ID. Now, if you do put a YouTube and a Vimeo ID in there, then you will get 2 videos coming out in your listing. So just a quick note for that. So I'm just going to press save and continue edit. And we'll go back to here and just do a quick view again. And we'll see that there we go. There's our YouTube video. And that's what we're going to roll with for this listing. So with that now being set, we need to update our listing on eBay. So back onto our policy, back in Magento and M2EPro, is that we now need to save the changes. So we're going to press save at the top and then click on confirm. And if we now go to sell on eBay and then listings, and we've got that in our default group down at the bottom. Now, normally M2EPro would do this automatically for you, but we want to force it through so you can actually see it coming out in our listings on eBay. So there's our Montana 10. We've ticked it on the left, and then on the right-hand side where it says actions, we're going to choose revise items on eBay and then click submit. Then click on OK, and this will take a few moments to go through. Ace. So that's been finished. So let's go have a look at this item on eBay. So I've just clicked on the item ID down here and it's opened up in a new tab. And if we now scroll down and have a look at our listing, is that we can not only see that we've got our bullet points, which we had on our product a few moments ago, our description, but we've also got our video. And that then means that your customer can now learn about, in this case, and let me pause that a moment, an Outwell 10 Montana 6.
So in this guide, we looked at how we can use video content in our eBay listings through Magento and M2EPro.
And right back at the beginning, we had a look at a live example on how we can embed video into our eBay listings, which was actually driven from Magento and M2EPro.
We looked at the benefits of using video in our listings and why, if you aren't already, it may be something to consider.
And the thing is that your manufacturers, in this case, we've used the example of Outwell Tents, and they've already been in creators some fantastic videos. Now, If you don't have that available to you, but you're quite willing to add video and to create your own video content, then this is a great way of actually being able to get it into the eBay listing to actually help your customers make an informed decision about the product, because they'll get to meet you. Crucially, they'll be able to meet the product. They'll be able to see the product, the key benefits, the key features, and also get an idea on the actual size of the product and the scale of the product. Oh, and Dave, also it's an opportunity for you to stress any key features or benefits about using the product as well. We then showed you how to create attributes in Magento so that we could enter the video ID for not only for YouTube, but also Vimeo too. We then added those to the attribute set, the default attribute set in Magento. And of course, if you've got multiple attribute sets like we have, then you would have gone on and added those 2 new attributes onto each of those sets. And we elected to put them at the bottom of the general tab because that kind of felt best for us, didn't it?
It did, but there's no restrictions. If you want to put them in a different tab, then by all means do so, as long as you know where they are and it suits your business when you're listing. That's all that matters. I then threw in a nerd alert, because we do require a little bit of HTML, and if you're like me and not that fluent, then you just need to grab hold of a Matt, and he luckily shared his code with us. So as long as you can copy and paste, happy days.
And it's really straightforward. You copy the bit at the top of the template to wherever you want your video to come out, and then everything which comes after that, paste that at the very bottom in the HTML section of your description policy in Magento. And so you just got 2 sections to, like, top section, put that wherever you want the video to come out, and the rest of the code you just paste it at the bottom out of the way. And if you can manage copy and paste, that's it. It's as simple as that.
Just as easy as following along exactly as Matt did in the video. And if you need to rewind, get a refresher, find exactly where he put it, just follow the steps and you can't go wrong.
Yeah. Oh, and if you really are getting stuck, don't be afraid to ask, and you can ask for help in the forums, and you can find myself and Dave and a community of other users at understandinge.com/forum. And Dave, finally, we then took that template and revised that item live on eBay, didn't we?
We did it a couple of times as well. So we used the YouTube video example, and then we went and added the Vimeo example, and you could see the player change as it was realizing which ID we had already filled in on that product.
Happy days. So for myself and Dave, we'll catch you soon. Cheerios. So we hope you've found this video guide useful, and myself, Matt, and
me, Dave,
we believe that to use Magento, you don't need a degree in Nerd. And that's exactly what we've been and done. We've been and created you over 70 full HD video guides on how to use Magento, all in plain English. And if you'd like to know more about myself, Matt, or
me, Dave, and more about what we're doing at Understanding E, why not visit us at understandinge.com/now.
And we'll see you there. And for myself, Matt.
And me, Dave.
We'll see you soon.